Opening up the season against the Super Bowl champions, Eagles are good, early season jitters, starting with a loss. Beat the Giants, beat the Bears, wildcard revenge game, ends in a loss, beat the Jets, beat the Panthers, win a scrappy game against the Commanders, win against a slightly weaker Broncos team than last year, beat an inconsistent Cardinals team, throw in a classic momentum losing loss, lose to the Eagles once again, lose to a late season playoff push Chiefs team, end the losing streak with another win against the Lions in primetime, which is sure to piss America off, keep it up with a win against the J.J. McCarthy Vikings, beat a middle of the pack Chargers team, lose to the Commanders this time around, beat the Giants, and then wrap up the season with an early playoff exit. Another fantastic season for America's team. After a great Super Bowl win, nothing really sticks out to me about the team right now, which leads me to believe that this will be any sort of slump year for them, but I'm always wrong about this stuff, so I'm sorry, Eagles fans. Beat the Cowboys, business as usual, once again beat the Chiefs, lose to the Rams, just an off week, don't worry about it, lose to Tampa, same script as last season, Broncos, Giants, Vikings, Giants, Packers, all of those are wins, Lions lost, bit of a toss-up game, lose to the Cowboys, nah, I'm kidding, beat the Cowboys, business as usual, beat the Bears, Chargers, and Raiders. Last 3 weeks are tougher with Commanders, Bills, Commanders, but I'm willing to give the Eagles those 3 as well. I don't know if the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl again, but I think that this is going to be another good year for the Eagles at the very least. So these guys are already not a great team, and they also somehow ended up with the hardest schedule in the NFL, which that makes sense. So forgive me when I say this, but loss. Hey, the Saints suck too. Let's say win. Loss, random ass win in the middle of the season. Absolutely no logic to that. Loss. Beat the Packers for no reason, leading the fan base to believe that Jackson Dart really will be the future. Followed up with a loss. I don't have anything personal against the Giants or anything. You know, I think this is just going to be a Saints versus Giants tank off this season. And whether it's Arch or whoever they want to bring on the team and ruin the career of, I feel like at the end of the day, the Saints are just going to squeak it out and beat the Giants for the worst record of the season. But hey, I guess we'll see. I think the Commanders will have a similar season to the Texans in their second year with CJ Stroud. Still a good year, but a slight step back from year one with their rookie quarterback. So beat the Giants right off the bat, then lose to the Packers in an early season showdown, beat the Raiders and the Falcons after to rebuild that confidence a little bit, just to lose to the Chargers the next week. Beat the Bears, maybe not a Hail Mary this time, but still beat them. Lose to the Cowboys, big win against the Chiefs. Lions coming back in for revenge, end with a win anyway. Then make up for that big win with a loss to the Broncos. The Commanders will be an unfortunate casualty of a fake late season Vikings run. Beat the Giants, lose to the Eagles, beat the Cowboys this time, lose to the Eagles again, maybe a playoff win or two to top it off. Not a bad season, but fans may be disappointed in the lack of progression from the previous year, but all in all, I don't think it's something to be too mad about. The yearly off-season champions are back at it with another hopeful year, so why not open the year with a win? Get the fans really excited. But they play the Lions next week, so that's a loss. Lose to the Cowboys too while we're at it. Beat the Raiders next week though. Early bye, followed up with a loss to the Commanders. Beat the weak Saints, don't get too excited because we got the Ravens next week, that's a loss. Bengals defense is not going to be good, and I think it will catch up to them eventually. This is the game that happens, win against them. Beat the weak Giants as well. J.J. McCarthy is taken form by this point, so loss against them. Beat the Steelers, and then lose to the Eagles, the Packers, and the Browns, who at this point are searching for an identity and use the Bears to find it. Beat the Packers this time around, and then end the season with some fun losses against the Niners and the Lions. I could end up being wrong about all this, and I'm more than happy to admit that, but I just don't think this is going to be the year for them quite yet. But I think that they are coming soon. I don't know though. I really don't know. I feel like we've been saying that for years. Opening up the season for the Vikings with an unfortunate loss to the Chicago Bears, turn it around with a win against the Falcons the next week, and then losing to the Bengals the following week. I think to start the season off, the Vikings are going to have some growing pains with J.J. McCarthy starting his first games in over a year and also his first games in the NFL in general. But I think the Steelers are going to be in an even weirder place, so win against the Steelers. Surprise loss against the Browns and then an unsurprising loss against the Eagles. A loss against the Chargers, who are in full form at this point of the season. A loss against the Lions. A win against the Ravens. Beat the Bears this time. This is a fun one. Turn around and beat the Packers. And then lose to the Seahawks. Beat the sophomore slump Commanders. Lose to the Cowboys. And then beat the weak Giants the following week. The Vikings finally get back at the Lions with a win, and then end the season off with a loss to the Packers. Overall, I don't think this is going to be a crazy good year for the Vikings. I think that J.J. McCarthy is going to take some time to figure stuff out. And just in general, there's going to be some struggles compared to last season. We're going to open up the Packers season with a loss to the Lions, but then a win against the Commanders, and also, of course, a win against the Browns. We got a wild card rematch game, Packers versus Cowboys, and I think the Packers are going to once again take this one. Unfortunately, I think the Bengals offense will be a little bit too much for the Packers to handle, and that will lead to a loss. I think the Cardinals are going to be a middle of the pack team this year, and I think the Packers will have enough to beat them this time around. Also, I don't think the Steelers are going to be incredible, and I think that the Panthers game will be closer than they want it to be, but they'll still squeak out a win. Another playoff rematch against the Eagles. Unfortunately, I think this is just going to be another loss, but I think the Giants are going to randomly win. Anything can happen. Don't get mad at me about this. This is just what I'm guessing. And to make things maybe even worse, I think the Vikings are going to beat them the following week. And then I think the Lions are going to beat them the next week. I'm sorry about this. Not to make it up to you guys, I got them beating the Bears, Broncos, got them losing to the Bears again, I'm sorry. But then I got them beating the Ravens, believe it or not. And then finally, I got them beating the Vikings to end off the season, and then maybe making a wild card spot. There's a lot of talk this season about if the Lions are going to be okay, losing both their offensive and their defensive coordinator, and I think they're going to be alright. Opening up with a win to the Packers and also a win to the Bears. Unfortunately, losing to the Ravens, that's just a tough matchup. But then beating the Browns, beating the Bengals, and then actually beating the Chiefs. I think it's going to be similar to last year where they lose a close, low-scoring game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then they have their bye week, and then they have the Vikings, and I think that they're going to win that one. I think they're going to lose to the Commanders just because PTSD. I think they will actually beat the Eagles, just a little off week for the Eagles, but a very good week for the Lions. Beating the Giants, that one's not too bad. Beating the Packers, losing to the Cowboys, believe it or not, losing to the Rams this time around, beating the Steelers, because I don't think they're going to be all that crazy, losing to the Vikings, sadly, and then ending it off with a win against the Bears. I think that they're going to make the playoffs, and I think the Lions will overall be alright. I think that they will actually win a playoff game this year, but don't quote me on that, because I could be very much wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of this stuff. As a Panthers fan, I may be a little biased, but I believe that the Saints will be the worst team in the league this season. With the combination of this likely being the Tyler Shucks season and the team's offseason acquisition, it feels like this is the year the Saints get the #1 pick in the draft. They will open the season with losses against the Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks, Bills, Giants, Patriots, Bears, Buccaneers, Rams, and the Panthers. And at this point, the team likely would have made some changes to the coaching staff and roster because an 0-10 start isn't a good look. But coming out of the bye week, the Saints aim to redeem that losing streak. Losses to the Falcons and the Dolphins. The Saints finally win a game, a divisional win against the Buccaneers. Another loss to the Panthers, Jets, and the Titans, and then end the season on a good note, winning against the Falcons. Yeah, I don't know if Saints fans will be happy or sad about this, but this is my prediction. On paper, the Buccaneers have improved from last season. Last season, when one side of the ball played well, it also felt like the other side just decided to phone it in for the game, that side typically being the defense. To open the season, they will break the Falcons' losing streak and also beat the Texans this time around. The Jets will be that loss that happens that shouldn't happen, but it will happen, which will be made even weirder next week by beating the Eagles. Beat the Seahawks, lose a close one to the Niners, continue the winning streak to the Lions and the Saints, a frustrating loss to the Patriots following by a high-scoring win to the Bills, lost to the Rams, win against the Cardinals, lose against the Saints for some reason, beat the Falcons and the Panthers, lose to the Dolphins, and then finally lose Week 18 but make the playoffs anyways because the NFC South sucks. I think the Falcons are primed for another disappointing season, whether they believe it or not. Improved pass rush for sure, but I am not confident in a lot of other parts of this team, including but not limited to Penix. Especially because I think this opening stretch will break his confidence. Buccaneers lost, Vikings lost, but the real sting will be losing to the Panthers. Following this 0-3 start, they play the Commanders and Bills, and I believe those will also be losses, but then they finally turn around their year with a win against the Niners. This turns the following 2 games against the Dolphins and Patriots into wins. Then there will be a strange loss against the Colts, but then this will be made up for in the following 4 games that I think will all be wins. The team will then remember that they can't finish above 500, so they've got to lose a few more, and by a few, I mean every remaining game on the schedule. So barring a crazy leap in the defense, I still don't think the team is quite there yet, but improved nonetheless. The defense is better, but that is the lowest bar in the NFL, so that's not saying much. The offense should be improved with a much better looking receiving group, so with that being said, I think they win Game 1. Followed up with a loss against the Cardinals after back-to-back away games. They win the home opener next week against the Falcons, and then they lose the following 3 games in close ones against the Patriots, Dolphins, and the Cowboys. beat the Justin Field Jets, lose to the Josh Allen Bills, also lose a high-scoring close game to the Packers, beat the weak Saints, lose to the Falcons this time around, then I believe they will win a big game against the Niners in primetime. Lost against the Rams, win against the Saints, split the Buccaneers games, and then lose against the Seahawks. I hope this season is better than 7 wins as a Panthers fan myself, but I don't want to set my expectations too high because it feels like I've done that every season for the last 10 years. Unless the start of the season is full of injuries like last season, I see this being a very successful regular season for the Rams. Starting the season off with a win against the Texans as well as a win against the Cam Ward Titans. First big statement win, however, will be a playoff revenge win against the Eagles. This is followed up by a win against the who knows who's going to be starting at quarterback by then, Colts. 2 losses in a row follow this, but then the Rams win twice against 2 softball opponents. The Rams will have a tough time in divisional matchups this year and lose to the Niners again. This is followed up by a win in the division against the Seahawks and 2 wins against NFC South teams. The Rams continue to have issues with divisional matchups and lose both of the Cardinal games, but then they win all of the remaining games on the schedule to give them a record of 12-5. There's an ongoing discussion right now on whether the 49ers are going to be back to Super Bowl form or not this season. I'm leaning towards them being pretty good, in part because they have statistically the easiest schedule of all teams in the NFL. But the start might be a little rocky, opening up the season with a loss against the Seahawks, a win against the Saints, and then another loss against the Cardinals, and then an even worse loss against the Jaguars. The 49ers will pick it up a bit following that with 2 wins against the Rams and Buccaneers, but then a close loss against the Falcons. From here on out though, the 49ers will get it together and win just about every remaining game. Randomly throw in a loss in the middle to bring morale down for a few days, but overall they'll end with a solid 12-5 record. I think this is the season that the Cardinals fan base officially turns on Kyler, not because it will be some horrible season, but rather they will once again be barely out of reach of the playoffs, opening the season strong but trouble closing the season out. Opening the season 4-0 would put the team on a pedestal that would eventually crumble out from under them with a disappointing loss against the Titans. They'll pick it back up later on against the Colts, but then lose once again to the Packers. The bye week will mark as the true turning point of the season as the team goes from 5-2 before the bye week to 5-7 after. They finally break that streak against the divisional rival Rams, but by this point of the season, it's a little too late and they'll eventually be locked out of the playoffs. To open the season, I think they will start hot beating the Niners, and following this, they will lose to the Steelers and then get a win against the Saints. The Seahawks will have some early season troubles following this, losing the next 3 games of the season. They, however, will turn things around the next week, beating the Texans. They'll lose a tough game against the Commanders following the bye and rebound with a win against the Cardinals. From here on, I have the Hawks losing all of their division games, plus the Falcons and the Colts games, but winning all of the rest. All in all, I predict the Seahawks will have a somewhat disappointing season, but I no doubt think that will rebound in the next and potentially be playoff contenders.